Hello, Greg here from VFRGPS Procedures, LLC. We here at VFRGPS Procedures are excited and thrilled to bring you what we believe to be the most innovative breakthrough for general aviation VFR arrivals and traffic pattern procedures using today's 21st century technology. We're convinced our procedures will increase safety, instill confidence, and ultimately make flying more enjoyable for all of us. We have created a one-stop shop for pre-flight planning with our new 3D pre-flight planning tool to satisfy FAR 91.103 pre-flight action requirements. This will help to optimize your time and effort during the pre-flight process. We have made it easy for you to join our beta test. We have partnered with VFRGPS, the leading free downloadable moving map GPS EFB for all Android devices. We have also superimposed our procedures on Google Earth, another free Google offering for your PC for superior and never-before-seen 3D pre-flight planning. Our arrival procedures are also linked to Sky Vector charts for airspace planning and Lockheed Martin's weather briefing from 1-800-weatherbrief.com, once again for superior pre-flight planning. There are many facets to our procedures, so sit back and let Tom guide you by narrating this introductory video. So from Carl, Curran, Nelson, Tom, and I, we want to thank you for your time and look forward to your feedback. So here's Tom.
Hi, Tom here. There are additional videos and training materials available that will cover the exact details of how to configure AVAIR and use our 3D pre-flight planning tools, as well as tips on how to fly the procedures. Please sit back and enjoy this 20-minute introduction as I narrate and guide you through the basics of our procedures. Keep in mind, this is a beta test that will require an Android device, but even though you may not have an Android device currently, you can still evaluate our 3D pre-flight planning tool. At the conclusion of the beta test, we would appreciate your responses to our survey questions, and we welcome your comments and valuable feedback. I'd like to thank you for your interest in our VFR GPS procedures and hope you will find this introductory video describing our 21st century approach to enhance VFR safety and flying enjoyment informative. The history of aviation has shown that increased aircraft traffic during World War I led to the construction of regular landing fields. Aircraft had to approach these from certain directions. This led to the development of aids for directing the approach and landing slope, and it hasn't evolved significantly for the VFR pilot since these early days. On September the 15th, 1971, a document was released by the DOT that contained a study conducted by members of the staff of the Assistant Secretary of Transportation for Safety and Consumer Affairs, FAA officials, and general aviation consultants, suggesting inclusion of standard traffic patterns for non-towered airports. There have been no significant changes since this study was issued for VFR airport arrivals. The last update for traffic patterns was dated August 26, 1993 in AC-90-66A. ATP 230 to include ultralight, parachutes, etc. With the advent of ADS-B and the plethora of moving map GPS expected to be in general aviation aircraft to take advantage of the ADS-B-In features, we knew this was the roadmap for general aviation pilots, and now is the time to build on this technology to enhance safety. Now, with 21st century technology, we can make safety advancements that are long overdue, making VFR flying much safer and enjoyable through reducing workload, by GPS lateral guidance with only 6 named waypoints for the VFR arrival and landing, while ensuring gliding distance to the runway in the event of an emergency. These waypoints are labeled with specific critical information about the arrival, including the waypoint name, no wind variation compensated compass heading, traffic pattern altitude in mean sea level, and runway elevation. We also bring Google Earth satellite images with our waypoints superimposed, depicting the arrival procedure for superior 3D pre-flight planning. These 2 features alone increase safety and confidence. We currently have procedures for 13,500 plus runways based on data in the FAA's NFDC 56-day database that will be updated on the 56-day schedule. We will talk more about additional features and attributes as we progress beyond these basics. Now, let's discuss more details of our standard approach. While flying our arrival procedures, we recommend maneuvering from the en route phase of flight to our GPS fix outside of the traffic area known as the Visual Initial Approach Fix, which is the starting point for the approach. The combination of the Visual Initial Approach Fix coupled with a midfield entry waypoint establishes a georeferenced course line with a compass heading compensated for magnetic variation to guide the pilot on the standard midfield 45-degree entry with precision to arrive at the midfield entry waypoint at traffic pattern altitude, all with moving map. Georeferenced lateral guidance, automatic waypoint sequencing with a 0.8 nautical mile corridor with GPS precision throughout the entire arrival. Automatic waypoint sequencing can be manually overridden to select any waypoint to restart sequencing. This may be desired to accommodate multiple touch and goes or missed waypoints. Prior to turning downwind, timing considerations calculated by the GPS based on ground speed visually alerts the pilot through their peripheral vision, eliminating the need for heads down time. When to start the turn at standard rate, which reduces the risk of overbanking and helps prevent overshooting the turn, which is a critical point where pilots can get into uncoordinated flight when airspeed and altitudes are low, resulting in a stall spin accident, which we hear about much too often. Then, from the midfield entry waypoint, we provide continued moving map, georeference lateral guidance to the base waypoint, final waypoint, and the runway threshold waypoint for superior situational awareness and timed turns throughout the pattern. The midfield entry waypoint establishes the first waypoint to keep general aviation aircraft within gliding distance of the runway should an emergency occur once in the pattern. Upon passing the midfield entry waypoint on the downwind leg at pattern altitude, when abeam the numbers, the pilot establishes a stabilized descent to arrive at the final waypoint turn at 500 feet AGL and at VREF speed +5 -0 knots, which will result in a very stabilized approach with standard rate turns throughout the approach to landing. These procedures have been designed to keep heads down time to a minimum so that the pilot can focus on see and avoid outside the aircraft. The procedures take into account that patterns may need to be altered occasionally based on other traffic in the pattern, such as extended downwind legs. By having the strategic waypoints in the pattern, we can navigate to the final waypoint on speed and altitude, regaining our stabilized approach to landing. This beta test has been made possible through the development, cooperation, and integration of our procedures into AVAIR Moving Map GPS for Android. AVAIR is a leading electronic flight bag application on Android and has more than 50,000 users to date. 3D pre-flight planning using Google Earth takes us into the 21st century by allowing us to visually see the ground course overlaid on aerial photographs of an arrival that depicts what the pilot will see from the cockpit while flying our procedures. We're convinced once pilots use our 3D images, they'll be motivated and look forward to viewing them and the additional information they provide for all VFR flights. No other planning tools available today take advantage of Google Earth technology. Military pilots have long had aerial photo reconnaissance available for their strategic planning. 3D pre-flight planning brings this technology to the airport arrival for the general aviation VFR community. Sectional charts simply cannot and do not convey this level of imagery and information. Google Earth allows users to zoom, pan, and tilt for highly detailed views of the airport surroundings. We've programmed our procedures into Google Earth to not only show the ground course, we actually show the flight path at traffic pattern altitude from the visual initial approach fix to the midfield entry waypoint and descent from the midfield entry waypoint to the final waypoint at 500 feet, then down to the runway elevation. The programming is based on standard keyhole markup language used by Google Earth. There are some airport arrivals that require non-standard approaches and patterns, particularly in mountainous areas, to avoid controlled flight into terrain. Our 3D pre-flight planning tools highlight these controlled flight into terrain situations and alert pilots that they should consult with the local airport or authorities where these conditions exist prior to departure to obtain the locally established procedures for arrivals. The few procedures that have conflicts can be eliminated by airport managers. They can develop a modified set of waypoints, latitude, longitude, and altitude to make the arrival safe. VFRGPS Procedures LLC will be the national repository of the modified waypoints. We will modify our published standardized arrival procedures based on the modified waypoints so that local knowledge can be disseminated nationally. In fact, we request that all of our procedures be reviewed and approved by airport managers to ensure there are no overriding local conflicts that would require a modification to our standard procedures. This can only be accomplished with the help of the airport managers. Would request airport managers to review, approve, update, and/or modify as necessary all procedures for their airport to ensure that all published procedures are up to date and correct for the safest possible arrival. This action could also be used to update the FAA National Flight Data Center 56-day database, where we have found many omissions related to pattern direction and traffic pattern altitude. Since our procedures are used for situational awareness and guidance to make arrivals more consistent and safe, modified waypoints for guidance do not have to be as stringent as IFR standards. There's no need for expensive surveys, nor do you need to be a cartologist to find latitude and longitude. Google Earth technology makes it simple to find the latitude and longitude for landmarks used in a currently established approach within seconds. We all know GPS waypoints are much more accurate than visually perceived landmarks that are used for non-standard arrivals. Since this is a grassroots effort to enhance safety, we can use today's technology to keep time and effort to a minimum and still achieve our goals of enhanced safety. We even invite private use airports to participate so published procedures can be available for those pancake breakfast fly-ins. Arrivals to major events such as Oshkosh, Sun and Fun, and other events requiring special procedures could easily be designed with VFRGPS procedures to make arrivals more efficient and safe with our special publication. Starting with our 3D pre-flight planning, we make a one-stop shop for pre-flight planning by providing direct access to all of the other leading planning sites, including the FAA National Flight Data Center Airport webpage, FAA Airport Facility Directory PDFs, as well as links to the new Lockheed Martin Flight Services Pilot Portal for legal weather briefs. We have our procedures overlaid on Sky Vector for airspace planning on the larger screen of your PC or AVAIR GPS at the airfield. Practically all requirements needed for complying with FAR 91.103 pre-flight action are just a few clicks away. Today, with AVAIR GPS and X-Plane 10 Simulator, pilots can select and fly any one of our 13,500 plus approaches, including their intended destination, in the safety of the simulator during pre-flight planning. This will instill confidence for unfamiliar arrivals. In fact, we encourage all pilots, where possible, to use simulator training to learn how to fly the procedures and become proficient with AVAIR functions before the first beta test. We'll be discussing AVAIR functions needed for the beta test in detail later. The following is a brief synopsis that summarizes the major features and functions of our procedures. Promotes the FAA's initiatives to improve safety. Motivated by FAST Team leader Gene Benson's Critical Phases of Flight webinar. First major FAA VFR arrival change since 1971. Time to advance based on in-cockpit GPS growth and expansion expected with ADS-B. The only 3D pre-flight planning tool using Google Earth showing the pilot a cockpit view of the arrival procedure. 3D pre-flight planning of arrivals and departures to survey possible emergency landing sites. 6. Uniformly named and labeled waypoints with critical information on all 13,500 plus procedures. Automatic waypoint sequencing within 0.8 of a nautical mile corridor to accommodate variable approach speeds. Multi-engine and turboprop aircraft can use our procedures at their appropriate traffic pattern altitude. First, to show arrivals in Sky Vector for pre-flight planning. Convenient one-stop shop to comply with FAR 91.103 pre-flight actions. Lateral GPS moving map guidance for situational awareness throughout the arrival. Time to turn indicator to reduce heads down time. Procedures are based on conservative 8-to-1 glide ratio for safe engine-out emergencies within the pattern. Non-standard or special event procedures are easily produced and published based on local requirements. Beta testing to examine the merit of these procedures and provide feedback. Uniform standard approach geared to aid in stabilized approaches with standard rate turns throughout. Will reduce unorthodox patterns as more pilots use our procedures. Situational awareness from en route all the way to shutdown. Instills confidence with unfamiliar arrivals. Makes flying more enjoyable. Saves time and fuel by flying directly from en route to the visual initial approach fix without a need to find and overfly the airport. Takes the individual guesswork out of the arrival. VFRGPS Procedures LLC will be the national repository for all standard, modified, and special procedures. All of these features have been designed to reduce workload, increase safety, and make flying more enjoyable. Future enhancements will include additional enhancements based on feedback, future ATC vector points, new radio phraseology for entry negotiation, stepping stone from VFR to IFR training, custom printable PDF approach procedures with specific tail number performance specs, 1-800 weather brief pilot portal features integrated into the 3D pre-flight planning. We envision all GPS providers integrating our procedures. We hope that you found this instruction to be interesting and informative and are as enthusiastic as we are about using our new technology. If you'd like to learn more about your involvement in this beta test, please click here.